At exactly 2:09 hours on April 6, 2026, somewhere beneath the streets of Tehran, a man who had spent 7 years evading the most sophisticated surveillance apparatus on Earth made his final mistake. Brigadier General Majid Khademi, the intelligence chief of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, effectively the second most powerful military intelligence officer in Iran, died in a precision strike that left no warning, no debris trail on Iranian radar, and no survivors in the room. In the same operation within the same 90-second window, Asghar Bagheri, the commander of the IRGC Quds forces' most secretive unit, Unit 840, the cell responsible for assassination operations against Israelis and Americans worldwide, was eliminated at a separate location in the capital. 2 of the most protected intelligence officers in the Islamic Republic killed in the same city, on the same night, within the same operation. This was not luck. This was not a missile that got fortunate with its coordinates. A senior Israeli official told Fox News that Khademi was effectively number 2 within the IRGC, one of the few senior commanders who managed to survive multiple waves of Israeli and American targeting over the past year, until now. He kept moving, relocating, but ultimately he was hunted down and eliminated. Fox News hunted down. That phrase is the most important military disclosure of this entire war, because what it reveals is not a story about 2 dead Iranian generals. It is a story about the most methodical, most technically sophisticated, and most operationally patient-targeted killing campaign in the history of modern warfare. One that has been running quietly and lethally since before the first bomb fell on February 28th. And it is not finished. To understand the scale of what has happened, you need to understand what the IRGC's intelligence apparatus actually is. This is not a conventional military structure. The IRGC does not fight like an army. It fights like a network. At its center is the Intelligence Directorate, the body Khademi ran, which functions simultaneously as a foreign intelligence service, a domestic surveillance machine, a counter-espionage organ, and a covert operations coordinator. Khademi spent decades in intelligence and counter-espionage roles. Before his appointment as intelligence chief, he headed the Guard's intelligence protection organization, charged with internal surveillance and counterintelligence, holding senior roles in Iran's defense ministry. The IRGC intelligence arm is one of Iran's most powerful security bodies, with a central role in domestic surveillance to counter foreign influence, operating in parallel with Iran's civilian intelligence ministry. Fox News. He was the man who knew where everyone was, where every asset was hidden, where every weapons cache was buried, what every sleeper agent in Europe, Africa, and South America was doing on any given Tuesday. He was the man who coordinated the counterintelligence effort to find the Israeli moles inside Iran's own military. He was the man who, for 7 years, managed to stay alive while Israel killed almost everyone around him. And his parallel? Asghar Bagheri of Unit 840. The unit's commander led Unit 840 since 2019. As part of his role, he planned and advanced terror attacks against Israelis and Americans in Israel, Syria, and Lebanon. Under his command, Unit 840 used Syrian operatives who had served in the Assad regime's military to target IDF soldiers near the Israel-Syria border. The unit also advanced the transfer of Iranian weapons into the hands of agents operating within Israeli territory. The Jerusalem Post Unit 840 is the IRGC's most covert offensive capability. Not missiles, not drones, human agents, assassination cells, weapons smuggling networks. The kind of operations that, if they succeed, leave no fingerprints, and if they fail, get denied by everyone. Both men, dead. Same city, same night, same operation. How? The answer begins not on April 6th, 2026, but on February 28th, when the very first Israeli F-35 is crossed into Iranian airspace as part of Operation Epic Fury. The targeting of Khamenei on day 1 was not simply a military decision. It was the opening move of a campaign designed on a logic that most Western analysts failed to recognize in real time. You do not destroy an adversary's military by destroying its hardware. You destroy it by destroying its decision makers, the people who know where the hardware is hidden, who can order it used, and who hold the institutional memory that allows the organization to regenerate after strikes. Every regime has a hierarchy. Every hierarchy has dependencies. Destroy the top and the layers below fragment. Destroy the layers below before they can reconstitute. And you have not just won a battle, you have collapsed the enemy's capacity for coordinated action indefinitely. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz confirmed the killing of IRGC intelligence chief Khademi and vowed to keep targeting top-ranking Iranian officials. Iran's leaders live with a sense of being targeted, Katz said. Ghostkagit.com. That sentence is the strategic doctrine of this entire war, compressed into 9 words. Iran's leaders live with a sense of being targeted. Not its cities, not its population, its leaders, specifically. Track the timeline of who has been eliminated since February 28th, and what you are watching is not a series of opportunistic strikes. It is a pre-planned kill list being systematically executed at a pace the IRGC simply cannot absorb. Day 1, February 28th. Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, killed in the opening strikes of Operation Epic Fury, alongside multiple senior Iranian officials in a single coordinated wave. The man who held the Islamic Republic together for 35 years, dead within the first hour of the war. The psychological and organizational shock of this single act was so severe that Iran's entire command structure had to improvise its response architecture from the ground up, while simultaneously absorbing American and Israeli bombs. March 26th, Israel killed Alireza Tangsiri, Iran's top naval commander and the officer directly overseeing the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. Israeli Defense Minister Katz confirmed Tangsiri was directly responsible for the terrorist act of bombing and blocking the Strait of Hormuz. Wikipedia, the man who had been running the most strategically damaging operation in the entire war, the chokehold on the world's energy supply, killed in his own capital 3 weeks into the campaign. April 5th, the IDF killed Kamil Melhem, the Imam Hussein Division's artillery commander, the officer who directed and oversaw artillery launches targeting Israel and who took part in weapons procurement for the Islamic Republic. The Jerusalem Post, April 6th, 2:09 hours, Khademi and Bagheri gone. Trump posted on Truth Social, many of Iran's military leaders who have led them poorly and unwisely are terminated. Town Hall. And today, Netanyahu confirmed the Bagheri killing personally, describing him as the top official responsible for planning and directing operations against Jews and Israelis worldwide, and emphasizing that Israel's ability to reach such high-ranking figures in the heart of Tehran represents a fundamental message. Voice of Emirates. Fundamental message. What is that message? It is this: there is no safe house in Tehran. There is no bunker deep enough. There is no communications blackout tight enough. There is no protocol secure enough. If you command Iranian forces at a senior level, you are already on a list, your pattern of life is already mapped, and the strike package against you is already built. The question is not whether. The question is when. But here is the dimension that is being almost entirely missed in the Western analysis of this campaign. Killing generals is not just about removing decision-making capacity, it is about what replacing them requires. The IRGC is not a meritocratic institution where the best officer always rises. It is a political, ideological organization where seniority, factional loyalty, personal connections to the supreme leadership, and ideological reliability all intersect to determine who holds power. Khademi spent decades building his position. His replacement does not inherit his intelligence networks, his institutional knowledge, his source relationships, or his counterintelligence instincts. His replacement inherits his job title and a fractured apparatus that is simultaneously under aerial bombardment, running an active naval blockade of the world's most critical shipping lane, conducting ballistic missile strikes against Israel and Gulf states, and managing an internal security crisis as the regime faces its most significant popular legitimacy challenge since 1979. Khademi's role included overseeing surveillance of Iranian civilians as part of the regime's crackdown on domestic protests. Fox News. He was the man keeping the domestic security apparatus functional while the external war raged. Without him, both tasks, external intelligence and internal repression, must now be managed by someone less experienced with less institutional authority in the middle of an active war. The IRGC has now lost its supreme leader, its naval commander, its intelligence chief, its Quds Force Special Operations Commander, its Imam Hussein Division artillery chief, and more than 50 senior officials killed in waves of strikes since February 28th. At what point does an organization stop being able to function coherently? Military planners call it C2 degradation, the systematic destruction of command and control capacity until the adversary cannot translate intent into coordinated action. Iran is not there yet, but the trajectory is unmistakable. And yet, Iran is still fighting. Today, Iranian missiles hit the northern Israeli city of Haifa, where 4 people were found dead in the rubble of a residential building. Kuwait, the United Arab Emirates, and Saudi Arabia all activated their air defenses to intercept incoming Iranian missiles and drones as Tehran kept up pressure on Gulf neighbors. Goskagit.com, the IRGC Navy, despite losing its commander, declared just yesterday that the Strait of Hormuz will never return to its previous status, and especially for the US and the Zionist regime, finalizing operational preparations for a permanent new security order in the Persian Gulf. Press TV. This is the paradox at the core of the decapitation campaign. You can kill the men, but you cannot kill the institutional inertia they created. The missile programs, the drone swarms, the naval assets, the proxy networks, all of these are still operational. And an organization under existential pressure, whose leadership is being hunted in its own capital, does not necessarily become more rational or more negotiable. It can become more dangerous, more erratic, more willing to authorize escalations that a rational senior commander might have blocked. The IRGC now knows that being careful, moving frequently, maintaining communication security, running counterintelligence operations, none of it was enough. Khademi was the counterintelligence chief. He was killed anyway. What does that do to the decision-making psychology of every surviving senior Iranian officer who wakes up tomorrow morning? Israeli Defense Minister Katz has his answer. Iran's leaders live with a sense of being targeted. Goskagit.com, the Trump administration has its answer too. The April 7th deadline for reopening the Strait of Hormuz expires Tuesday evening. If Iran does not comply, strikes on power plants and bridges follow. And the men who would have coordinated Iran's response to those strikes, its intelligence chief, its naval commander, its covert operations director, are dead. What happens when a country's military chain of command has been surgically removed? Its economy is under the most severe energy sanctions in history. Its population is living through the 38th consecutive day of aerial bombardment, and its new leadership still refuses to negotiate? That is the question that nobody in Washington, Tel Aviv, or Tehran has a clean answer to. And it is the question that the next 36 hours will begin to answer, whether the world is ready for that answer or not. Do you think the decapitation of Iran's military leadership will force a ceasefire? Or has it locked both sides into a spiral that cannot be stopped? Drop your analysis below. If this breakdown exposed the hidden architecture of this war, hit like and subscribe, because the April 7th deadline is hours away, and the next video is already being written by events that nobody can predict. Stay sharp. The hunt is still running.